when my sister Belinda appeared on the doorstep. I thought, here she is, the last person I can still let into my heart in my old age. She was standing there with a suitcase, wearing a coat that didn't fit, with a gray face and a look as if the world didn't love her anymore. And I, an old fool, immediately became emotional. How can you not drop your own blood? My house in Iowa is a little nest. A quiet street, the neighbors have been the same for 30 years. I've been a widow for 15 years, and my children live in California, and they come to visit when I call them several times, and so I am alone. But loneliness is not always evil. I've gotten used to it. Every day is like a script. Tea in the morning, TV in the afternoon, a book in the evening. And then there's Belinda. She disappeared for 10 years, didn't even call when our brother Jim died. And now she stands there and says, Annie, I have nowhere to go. Everything is gone. I don't have anything anymore. Her eyes were red, but there were no tears. And somehow she didn't smell like poverty. There is a smell of people who are really struggling. And she was wearing expensive perfume. It's strange, but I didn't pay attention to it at the time. We used to be very close. And when I was a child, when my mother died, I took care of her. Then we went our separate ways. I went to work as a teacher, and she was always looking for herself. She would sell cosmetics, go to Alaska to, look for gold, or hang around some men with money. But every time it ended the same way, with a scandal and a runaway. The last I heard, she was living in Las Vegas with some businessman, but he dumped her, as she said. I'm in debt, she said the first night, sitting in my kitchen. I'm not asking you to pay it off. I need a place to come to my senses. I looked at her hands, they looked well groomed. The manicure was fresh, and her hair had been dyed recently, but I remained silent. Belinda, this is not a hotel. I have a pension that is barely enough for medicine, but I will help. I'm not a lazy person. I'll clean and cook. Please, Annie. The first few days were even a little nice. She actually made coffee in the morning, set the table, asked about my grandchildren. And I thought maybe this is a chance to restore sisterhood. Maybe old age might not be so lonely after all. But on the third day, I noticed something strange. My necklace, the only thing I had left of my mom, was not where I had put it, and the box with my savings was open. Belinda, did you go to the closet in the hallway? No, why? Tarama? She answered calmly without batting an eye, and again I believed her. Somewhere inside, something had already twitched. Intuition is never silent, but we women often drown it out with our voices. What am I imagining? My neighbor Beth, who is in her 80s, once asked Meg, is that your sister? Yes, Belinda, I answered. Temporarily is good, Beth said, because there's something wrong with her. Her eyes are too cold. I laughed to keep from showing how much that phrase hurt me. But that night I thought of those words again and again. That night I woke up to the sound of the pantry door creaking. I went out, it was empty. But the smell of her perfume remained in the air. Not strong, but subtle. Like a hint. I went back to bed, but sleep did not come. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something worse than loneliness or the feeling that next to me was not just a sister, but a stranger, and perhaps dangerous. And the next day, the first big thing disappeared, my gold chain. But more about that in the second episode. Because sometimes when you let someone into your home, the door closes. Not according to your rules. They say that when life becomes too quiet, wait for thunder. And I should have guessed, because my house had become suspiciously cozy. Belinda walked like silk, smiled, washed my robes, cooked soups, asked how I was doing. But I kept catching myself thinking something was wrong in her eyes. There was no care there. It was a performance role. 1 week later, I had almost convinced myself that paranoia is only in movies. Everything looked perfect. She made my bed, took out the garbage, even sewed napkins for the kitchen like a girl in a crafts class. And my neighbor Beth nodded her head more than once, saying, well, Annie, I told you family will always support you. I just smiled, but inside me, like an old barometer, the arrow was still trembling, and for good reason. Because a few days later, I opened the box where I kept the gold chain that was given to me on the 40th anniversary of my marriage, and the box was empty. I was frozen, like a statue, and I couldn't even say a word right away. Oh, and I just sat there and stared. "Belinda," I called after a few minutes. "Why, have you seen my chain? There, in the drawer, me." "No. Why would I want your things?" She shrugged her shoulders in surprise. Mama, you must have put it somewhere and forgotten it." "I never moved it," I whispered. "Well, old age is no joy," she said with a smile. That word, old age, hurt like nothing else. Ella, because she didn't say it with pity, but with a hinty old and stupid. And for the first time I was really scared. Scared that I might be in my own house, not the hostess. I decided to check her room. Not because I wanted to spy, but because my heart told me that if I didn't look now, I would eat myself. When Belinda left for the pharmacy, I quietly went into her room. At first glance, there was nothing. But at the bottom of her bag, among the cosmetics and tea bags, I saw my chain. It was in a plastic bag, like an item for sale. I didn't cry. I just closed the bag and walked out. My hands were shaking, from resentment, from pain, but most of all from powerlessness. I was afraid to say anything. What was I supposed to do? Throw her out. She was my sister. Where would she go? And would people believe me if I said she was stealing from me? Hubba, they would say. "Come on, Annie, you don't have a good memory." That night I was silent. Belinda came back, brought me a chocolate bar, and sat next to me like an angel. I thought we could look at old photos. She said, "Oh, you remember when we were at the river with Dad?" "I remember," I said, but in my heart I was screaming, because I remembered how we had a fight about my teddy bear, which she threw into the water, and then she pretended it wasn't her, and I believed her. It's amazing how everything repeats itself. The same sister. The same lie. Only the price now is not a toy, but my life. The next day I went to the bank to check my account, and what do you think? Twice as small amounts were withdrawn from my card. And the card was in my bag. I changed the PIN code, but my heart was already beating at a frantic pace, because it meant only one thing: she was spying, or picking up the code. Either way, it was no longer just inconvenient. It was a threat. I sat at home and thought about what to do. Should I kick her out? What if she goes and tells everyone how old and crazy I am? Or worse, would she stay and clean me out to the last cent? I was trapped, and she knew it. Because someone like Belinda can smell weakness like a shark can smell blood. And the next morning I found something else in her bag. Something that made my hands shake for the first time. And not because of age, but because of fear. Or there are things that simply cannot disappear. They just can't. Especially from a home where everything has been in its place for years. And also from a house where only one old woman lives. But when these things started disappearing, first little things, then more serious things, I realized that I wasn't living with my sister. I live with a strange woman whose only name is Belinda. And who knows that I am helpless. That morning, as I had promised myself, I looked into her bag again. It was no longer just curiosity, it was an attempt to survive. And what I found was not money, not gold, not my glasses, which she had accidentally put away somewhere else. I found my savings book, an old paper book from the 2000th. I thought it was lost long ago, but it wasn't. Belinda found it before I did. And she kept it quietly, like a treasure map. I opened it, and I saw that 2 amounts had been withdrawn from the account, $500 each. And the signatures were not mine. I sat in the kitchen clutching that book, couldn't even breathe. This is not just theft. It was a forgery. She had dared to get into the place where my future was kept. I was shaking. And for the first time in many years, I thought, would it be like to go to the police? And then another thought came into my head. What if she had already foreseen this? What if she had already told someone that I was not in my right mind, that I have dementia, forgetfulness. With older people, such a reputation sticks instantly. Oh, and once you forget the kettle on the stove, you're already a crazy old lady. And then I remembered my marriage contract with my late husband. An old document, but an important one. Because our apartment was registered there. And I remember exactly that it was in a box in the closet. I rushed to look for it. But the box was empty. It was just empty. No paper, no copies, only dust. This time I didn't wait. I put her bag on the table and sat down across from her. "Honoraka Belinda," I said quietly, "you know what I found." She was silent. She just looked at me with that fake surprise of hers. "What is it, dear sister?" "The savings book, and the missing money, and documents." She smiled slowly. "So you do have something wrong with your memory, if you didn't see it all in my bag before." I clenched my fists. I didn't forget. "But who's going to believe you, Annie?" She leaned closer. And she was right. Because if I went to the police and they said, "Prove it," I wouldn't be able to. Because she has all the evidence. Because she had already started preparing the ground. Oh, I started to notice her calling from the kitchen, whispering about me. She's confused. She says I took something, then says I didn't. I think she has something wrong with her head. She should go to a nursing home. They'd take care of her properly. I went out on the porch that evening to breathe, and I saw my neighbor Beth talking to Belinda over the fence. And Beth had a look on her face. You are like a nurse talking to a patient. "Annie, are you okay?" she asked. Yeah, I said. "Why do you ask?" "Well, Belinda said you get lost in time sometimes." "Me? No, Beth laughed. "It's okay, Anna, just take care of yourself." And then I realized she doesn't just steal. She's preparing the ground to make me look crazy, to throw me out of my own house, to take everything. But I won't give up. Even if everyone thinks I've lost my mind, I'll prove that I can still fight. Even I had no idea what I would do next. But my plan was beginning to take shape. There are things you put off for years. Amount documents, contracts, invoices, all of these things sit in a drawer because they are never needed. But it is in them, in these pieces of paper, that your truth, your safety, your life is hidden. And as soon as they fall into the wrong hands, get ready. Because then you are no longer just a grandmother. You are a victim. After that conversation with Beth, I had no doubt Belinda is up to something serious. She's not just stealing. She's trying to erase me from my own life. I remembered that somewhere in an old dresser in my bedroom were documents that my late husband and I had once guarded like the apple of my eye. A will. A certificate of ownership. And, most importantly, the insurance contract for the house where I live. I waited for Belinda to go for a walk every day she would go, to get bread, and return 2 hours later. Empty-handed, by the way. I rushed to the dresser. There I opened all the drawers. There were folders, but half of the papers were gone. The will, no. The house certificate, gone. In their place were torn envelopes and some incomprehensible bank statements. Among all the junk, I found an envelope with the inscription, "To Anna Barks, Confidential." But it was already open. And do you know what was in it? An updated electricity bill in the name of Belinda. I sat down. My heart was pounding like a hammer. My house heir and the bills are already in her name. How? I called the electric company. "Hi, I'm Annie Barks. I'd like to check why the bill is no longer in my name." "Let me see." "Yes, that's right. The name of the subscriber has been changed to Belinda Hill. She provided a copy of your power of attorney and a letter from a medical facility." "What facility?" "Wait a minute. It's the Marysville County Psychiatric Diagnostic Center. It says you're temporarily incompetent to stand trial." "A what?" I got cold. This was no longer a theft. This was the legal hijacking of my life. She forged a power of attorney. She submitted a fake medical report. Actually signed over all the bills to herself and now, apparently, she is preparing to re-register the house. And I don't have a single piece of paper. Not a single piece of evidence. I sat in silence in a rocking chair. I didn't rock. My eyes were on the ceiling. My brain was working hard. Tears. No, pain, yes, fear. Even more, I was afraid that she would disappear as soon as she got everything formalized, and I'd be left without a home. No proof. Without a voice. That night, I remembered the storage room that Joe, my late husband, had made under the stairs. There was an old safe box where he kept the most important things. I hadn't opened it in years. But it was worth a try. Thank God I remembered the combination. Click. The box opened. And inside, a marriage certificate, a will, a copy of the house died. And most importantly, our joint power of attorney, signed by a notary in 2002. And not a single mention of Belinda's name. For the first time in weeks, I felt that all was not lost. I took a picture of the documents with my phone. And I sent them to my email and to my granddaughter Julia's email, even though we hadn't spoken in years. But she worked in a law firm. And then she put everything back. And she sat down, waiting for Belinda to come back. And do you know what she said when she came in? You seem a little quiet today. Is everything okay? I smiled. Better than you think, sis. Much better. What happens next? This is just the beginning. Next, I'll start acting. Sometimes the truth lives right next door, just behind the wall. But it doesn't always speak for itself. It needs to be summoned. You need to push it, or provoked. That morning, I met Mr. Glenn by chance or not, near the garbage cans. He was old, even older than me, but with a sharp eye and an even sharper tongue. The whole neighborhood knew that if Glenn saw something, he would not keep quiet for long. He said hello, looked at me carefully, and suddenly spoke, "Annie, can I ask you something?" I stopped, already suspecting that he knew something. "Go ahead, Glenn." He lowered his voice and looked around as if someone was listening. "Did you let her go through your composter?" I furrowed my brow. "What composter?" "You know, that box in the shed. Where you always kept your receipts and old papers. I saw her shoveling something out 2 weeks ago. At night. With a flashlight. I felt like I got an electric shock. Are you sure it was Belinda? Who else?" "Anna, he walks around like a ghost in the middle of the night. And then she takes out the trash from the house in bags for a week." I bit my lip. So it was her who threw away my documents that she hadn't had time to appropriate. "And that's why she suddenly started cleaning," I said quietly. "Thank you, Glenn. You have no idea how important this is." Glenn didn't stop, and one more thing. "I saw a guy come by last Monday. Young, with glasses and a suit. She came out to him with an envelope. Did you hear anything?" No, but I saw her hand him some documents. He was looking through them and laughing. And then he left. I got cold. It could have been a property appraisal or a contract for re-registration. She is preparing the ground, and he's not hiding. After the conversation with Glenn, I had no right to wait any longer. My suspicions turned into facts. I had witnesses, I had the truth, and I had a motive. I went home as quiet as a shadow. And I started collecting evidence. Everything I had: photos, copies, correspondence. I put everything in a big yellow folder. I wrote one word on Linda, Belinda, and then I made a phone call. Not to her, Julia. "Hello. Julia, it's Grandma. We have a problem. A big one, a big Grandma. I haven't heard your voice in a while. Now's not the time. I need your help. You still work at that law firm, don't you?" "Yes, of course. I have the documents. And I have a statement. I'm being robbed, and it's your aunt." Julia was silent for a few seconds. Then she said quietly, "I'll come. Tomorrow, Julia. Don't say anything. If she touched you, she will be responsible." In the evening, Belinda was nice again. She brought me soup, sat down next to me, even asked if I wanted to have a spa day. And I smiled back at her. And I thought, enjoy it, sis. Because tomorrow the show starts. I'm ready to write the 6th episode. Give me a signal, and we'll continue this story of lies, betrayal, and late but very sharp justice. Sometimes you live in your house for decades. Every corner remembers you. Your tears, your laughs, your dreams are here. And then someone from the family says, "This is not yours anymore." Julia arrived in the morning without warning, without a word. Oana she stood on the doorstep with a laptop in her hands and determination in her eyes. I barely had time to her before she spoke. We need to sit down and figure this out. Everything is point by point. I have a lawyer who has agreed to help. She didn't even drink tea. She just sat down at the table and said, "Show me everything." I pulled out a yellow folder. There were copies of old Will's Glenn's affidavit, bank statements, even a photo of some damaged papers I'd taken before Belinda took them out. "She's re-registering the house," I said quietly. "I can feel it." And Glenn saw her giving the papers to some man. Julia nodded. "We'll stop it. But we need the reissue document itself. If it already exists, we need to find it and prove that you were mizzled or forced to sign something wrong." And I looked at her and said what I had been keeping to myself. "She is my sister. I took her to live with me in my old age, and Julia stroked my hand. "Family is not about blood. It's about actions. Ava, and if she did it consciously, she is no longer family. She's a fraud." We hadn't even gotten off to a good start when the door opened. What a surprise! Belinda stood in the doorway, as usual, with a smile that she had long wanted to wipe off with a towel. "Hi, Auntie," Julia replied calmly, not even getting up. "Did you know that it is a crime to sign documents for someone else's property without the owner's permission?" Belinda froze. "I don't know what you mean," she said quietly, "but we do. We have evidence, and there is a suspicion of forgery. And if I open a case, the police will come tomorrow." Belinda put on her kind. "Mascagang, come on. It's just a house. We're a family. Isn't it hard for you? You're old anyway, I'm old. But I'm not stupid," I said loudly, for the first time in a long time with strength, "and I won't let anyone steal it. Not even to you, sister. I was just trying to secure the future. If something happens to you. Are you counting on it?" Julia suddenly clicked the mouse and a document appeared on the screen. "I found it in the registry. Belinda, can you explain why your power of attorney is now issued for your mother's property? And why the registry has requested a change of ownership?" Belinda turned pale. It was just a preparation, but I didn't have time to change anything." "But I wanted to," I said. And then Belinda broke down, her smile disappeared, her voice became harsh. "What are you picking on? Are you sorry?" "You don't understand anything. I'm in debt." "Ado, I spent my life on other people's children. And I have nothing. And this house is at least something." We were silent. Julia said, "That's no reason to steal." "I'm not stealing." It's not yours," I said quietly, and it never was. Belinda left, slamming the door. But I knew it wasn't over. She would not give up, because people like her don't stop, until they reach a dead end, and I'm not alone anymore. I'm ready. If you're ready, then let's move on. The real fight is still ahead. When your home is stolen from under your nose, there is always a lack of evidence, because those who steal are prepared in advance. And you believed, and you hoped. And now you are left at a crossroads without documents, without control, but with a keen intuition. After that loud scene with Belinda, there was a strange calm. No phone calls, no slamming doors, no unintentional meetings in the kitchen. She simply disappeared from my horizon, but not from the house. I could see her shadow in the hallway, hear her snooping around at night. She was looking for something, and I knew it wasn't just things. She tried to remove the evidence. "Mom, are you sure you didn't sign anything? Even in the hospital, when you were lying there." Bear and a child, I barely remembered the doctor's name. But maybe there was something. She was always hanging around then. Damn. Julia never swore in front of me. We can't prove anything if there's no signature, date, or witness. Could I just sighed? But I feel like she's lying. That's not good enough in court, Julia whispered. I didn't sleep that night. My heart was beating like crazy. You know, that internal trembling, like something was about to happen. And indeed it did. At 1 a.m, I heard the basement door creak. The basement is mine. My archives, old letters, contracts, and other things from my marriage to my late husband are there. What would she be doing there? I put on a robe and took a flashlight. I didn't even put on my slippers. Quietly, like a cat, I went downstairs after her. And there she was, flashlight in hand, rummaging through my boxes. Belinda. She jumped up and dropped something, an envelope, I think. What are you doing here? My voice sounded like a whip. Well, I remember that there were some old photographs here somewhere last night. In the box with the wills. Don't be ridiculous! She pulled herself together and looked at me calmly. As she walked away, but I picked up that envelope. It contained my old deed of gift of the house to my husband from the 90s. And behind it was an empty power of attorney form with my data already printed. Mine. Or she wanted me to sign it when she was sick, I whispered. Or she already did, and she's hiding the original. We need someone who saw her with these papers. Glenn saw her take something out. Glenn's great, but he's not a lawyer. What if she's already given those papers to someone else? Julia gave me a hard look. Then all we have to do is prove that you didn't know how to sign the power of attorney. AAA, psychiatric evaluation, medical reports, witnesses. What if I just know that she wanted to deceive me? Without proof, I asked. What if I believe it? Mom, faith is good. But we need documents. And if we don't find them, then we'll find another way to arrest her. Julia and I decided that we needed to talk to the lawyer who had already formalized something. We found out his name through the registry. And, surprisingly, he turned out to be honest. Yes, Belinda contacted me. She brought a power of attorney, but it was unsigned. I said no. I have to live with my reputation. And she didn't come back. No. And remember, until there is a signature, the document is not valid. Julia breathed a sigh of relief. But she can turn to someone less principled. She can, the lawyer said, and that's why I advise you to block the possibility of a notary acting on your behalf. We were leaving the notary's office when Julia suddenly stopped. I just got a message. She's acted again. And this time she wasn't alone. I looked at her. What? She's got a lawyer. It started. Yes. The thing I was most afraid of. She decided to go all the way, but I'm not the same person I was at the beginning. And I'm not afraid anymore. Are you ready to go on? Because the real war is about to begin. She did not come back alone. She stood on the doorstep with a man in a suit and a folder in his hand. Both of them were smiling, but they were smiles without warmth. Good afternoon. He said, we want to talk about your future accommodation. My what? Belinda walked inside like a hostess. We have news. No, Mom, I need a spacious place for my children. I'm still alive, I shouted. I live here. This is my home. The documents say otherwise, the lawyer said calmly. Ms. Belinda has full power of attorney. She is the owner now. I went limp and leaned against the wall. That's not true. I didn't sign. It's all right. He interrupted me. It's certified. Transferred. It's legal. Belinda smiled even wider, and I have plans. Renovations, new furniture. And you? Well, it would be better if you looked for something more modest, for a pensioner. They left, leaving me with papers, copies, photocopies, some kind of official warning. I sat in the kitchen in silence, for an hour, 2 hours, then I got up. I started to pack my things, but I don't even remember where I started with photos or medicines. But I remember the feeling as if you were packing someone else's apartment. Someone else's. Not my own. Wait! Don't do anything stupid. Julia shouted into the phone. They're back, and they've made it official. You don't have to go. But what if she calls the police? Julia was silent for a few seconds. Then you're coming to my place temporarily. Okay? No. I don't want to come to you. You have kids, a husband. I don't want to be a burden. Don't say that, she snapped. I packed 2 suitcases. While I was looking for the third, Belinda was already standing on the stairs. Smart girl. And I looked at her. Aren't you a little ashamed of me? Why? I'm just worried about my future. And you've lived, haven't you? Her indifference was killing me. I left the house without even looking back. It was only on the street near the bus stop that I realized I was homeless. A friend of my youth, Marta, agreed to take me in for a few days. Don't worry, I have an old sofa. I slept on it, curled up in a ball. Her cat purred next to me, and I looked at the ceiling and asked myself, how did this happen? In just a few months, my life turned upside down. At first, I was a confident hostess. Now I was a shadow. Ella, I cried quietly so as not to wake Marta. In the morning, she called again. I made an appointment with a lawyer. Are you coming? Julia, I don't know. Mom, you don't have to give up. She won't win if we go up. And she sounded determined. And I agreed. Not for myself, but for her, because it hurt her to see me like this, weak. Broken, the lawyer was a woman, calm, confident. You are not alone, she said. And even if there is a document, we have a chance to prove the pressure. I said, and in that state I couldn't sign it. Okay, let's start with that. They brought me tea, at a small gesture, but then I felt that all was not lost. When we left the office, Julia said, Mom, it turns out that Belinda is not so independent. What do you mean? She didn't just take over the house. If she's involved in something bigger, and it looks like we might be able to strike back. I looked at her. More. This isn't over, no. It's just the beginning. Are you ready for another attack? Because now we're hitting back. After the meeting with the lawyer, I no longer felt helpless. I was scared, yes, but it was not fear of loneliness, but of the unknown. Julia dug deeper. I checked out her husband, she said. This guy has been involved in real estate fraud before. Only it was all blamed on women. I mean Belinda is a front woman. He's the real player. And if she signed everything over to him, then she's the one who will go to jail, if anything. I was sitting with her old things. They hadn't all been taken out of the house yet. And I found an old flash drive. It was small, dusty, in a cosmetic bag. Maybe a photo, I thought, and there were scans of passports. Other people's passports. Different people. Documents that definitely did not belong to her or any of her family. My daughter just looked and turned white. This is a crime, Mom. We'll go to the police. The police were in no hurry. But the lawyer had friends. And although they didn't open a case right away, the momentum was there, and we filed a complaint about fraud. And most importantly, we filed a motion to suspend the registration of the transfer of ownership until the circumstances are clarified. This will slow her down. The lawyer explained. I just nodded. And then what? Then we prepare for court. She came alone, without him. For the first time, she didn't look so sure. Mom, why are you doing this? Really? I just wanted to secure my future. And how? By throwing me out of the house. Take away everything. Don't exaggerate. Your daughter looked at her and said, Now tell me, who is Knave? Did you think I would just accept it? She was silent. And for the first time, I saw something like fear in her eyes. The following week, her husband was arrested, temporarily. On suspicion of forgery, the case was opened, and Belinda started calling. Every day. She begged me, threatened me. It's going to get messy, Mom. We'll both be investigated. Let me investigate me. You explain how you got other people's passports. I didn't know anything. It's him, really. And the signature on the power of attorney is also his. I didn't sleep at night. No, not because of fear. It was the pain. Because no matter what, she is my child. My girl whom I once taught to tie her shoes told bedtime stories. And now she is on the verge of prison. And even though my heart was breaking, I knew there was no turning back. She had crossed the line. And she has no right to touch my life anymore. We have good news. Yes, the court suspended the transfer of property. That is, legally you are the owner again. And the police are investigating. Your daughter isn't under arrest yet, but she's no longer playing on an equal footing. Exactly. I sat down and was silent for a long time. No tears, no joy, just relief and bitterness. Mom, you did well. I don't feel like a winner. Because it's not about winning. It's about justice, I nodded. Did you know she was planning to sell the house next week? No. But I'm not surprised. Julia took my hand. So what now? I'll live. But in a different way. More carefully. With a cool head. And with open eyes. A few days later, I stood by the window with a cup of coffee. The yard was the same. The garden was the same. But I was not the same. Belinda had disappeared from my life. So had her husband. But her shadow will remain in my memories for a long time, because I realized one thing: the greatest evil is not strangers. It's the people you trust. And the saddest thing is to be forced to tell them, now tell me who among us is knave. Life goes on. And even after a betrayal, there is a chance to start over, but this time wisely, and with those who are really close.